Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
You see Santa Claus tonight? You better run, boy. You better run for your life.
But Mother Superior, it's Santa Claus.
Now I have another reason to hate Christmas.
Now that hell is full, I wonder where you will go.
The caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house.
You're my family now.
But if you're bad boys and girls, your name goes in the bad boys and girls book, and I'll bring you something horrible.
Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
The All-American Spookshow Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the All-American Spookshow Podcast. I'm Josh, and I'm joined here with the Professor Smoke.
What's up?
And Tiana.
Hey.
Will couldn't be with us. Donnie may or may not join us a little bit later on. He's busy at the moment, but there's a chance he might drop in. But if you never hear him, then you know what happened. He just never showed up. But we do, in his place, kind of, have a special guest. Now, this being Christmas Day, we figured it would be a nice way to celebrate the holidays and bring someone on the show. So we ran a contest last month, and we randomly drew a winner, and the winner ended up being our guest, our co-host today, Mr. William Bove, who's a gothic horror author, we've learned, and nice to have you on here, William.
Thank you guys so much. It's great to be on here. It's a lot of fun. I've always wanted to be on a podcast, on a horror podcast, and co-host. I would love to be a horror show host in the future along with my gothic horror author career. That'd be fun. Like do stuff like Vincent Price does or did. I
think there are some kind of people that kind of have their own YouTube channels, right? They find like public domain movies and just kind of host them themselves.
I think they do too.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. That's something we've never dove into here on the show. As far as we've talked about Joe Bob Briggs off and on and stuff like that. I
love Joe Bob.
Yeah, I think everybody does, right? But we've talked off and on about it, but we've never really like dove into like we should actually give it a try or something like that. Just for fun or something. But
you should. That'd be so cool.
What exactly is your background? Like what kind of stuff? I mean, I know gothic horror author, but like what kind of books? What are some examples of some stuff that people could find from you?
I love vampires very much. They're my favorite supernatural, and gothic horror is literature that is or relates to mysterious, the grotesque, or the desolate, and also has features of love and true love, death, the supernatural, and elements of nature. It's features a lot about the beauty and the aesthetic of a crumbling castle, a lonely field with a withered tree, things that would bring up into the imagination and the soul, haunting things and things coming out of graves, and disembodied strange sounds in the woods at night under a full moon or in a spooky cemetery that is like off the beaten path or a hidden one with undead things crawling out of it coming to get people.
That would be a proper description of some gothic horror for sure.
Oh, thank you.
What would be your personal favorite authors, I guess, or works?
I love Edgar Allan Poe. Almost everything by Edgar Allan Poe. And Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is my favorite gothic horror novel. I love Dracula, love Bram Stoker's Dracula, but Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is my absolute favorite. And some works by Lord Byron. I don't care for Byron as a man. He was horrible. But some of his poems and his works are really cool. And John Keats and Wordsworth and Tennyson and Blake.
Excellent. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to pull some examples of some good stuff, there, you went straight to the top. That's for sure.
Edgar Allan Poe is why I'm a gothic horror author. When I was 6 years old, I read Masque of the Red Death over and over and over, and I sat back in spellbound wonderment at Poe's style of symbolism and allegory and illustration, and it woke up my soul to who I was and what I was to do, and it said, this is for you, this is who you are. And I said to it, to the inner monologue, which everybody has, how? I don't know how to do this, and it said, let me show you, and I've been following it ever since.
I guess we can go ahead and we'll let you say what you chose for us to watch today, and then we'll get into some other background stuff, so go ahead and tell everybody what you chose for us.
I chose a Tales from the Crypt episode, one of their Christmas episodes that I love the most, called All Through the House, which features an escaped lunatic from an asylum for the criminally insane who is stalking the nearby area and chopping up housewives and mothers. And he just so happens to come across a mother who just killed her husband because she wanted the insurance money because she can't stand him. And so she phones her lover, and with the financial information in hand, is all happy and excited and says, I've done it. He's dead. We can be free now. Da, da. Her daughter, her only child, is waiting for Santa. This lunatic is dressed as Santa, carrying him around an axe out in the blizzard outside, and just happens to come to her house.
Yeah, as soon as you pulled this episode, I instantly knew this was going to be awesome because this probably is one of my top 5 or so favorite episodes of Tales from the Crypt. Like, it's one that I always remember when I think about Tales from the Crypt, the series. This is one of the episodes I always, kind of think of. So I think it's a
lot of fun.
Yeah, and we'll get into it a little deeper here in just a second. But before we get into all that, we want to remind everybody out there to go to aaspookshow.com. We call that the center of the Spook Show universe. From there, you can go listen to our past podcast archives. You can also go to our YouTube channel from there. Every month on our YouTube channel, we have Hammer Horror in Order, where we go through the Hammer horror films of horror and their thrillers in the order in which they came out. So we've been slowly going through that, and we're actually recently catching up on a few that for whatever reason we skipped. Like I had a list running of Hammer horror and thrillers, and for whatever reason these didn't make that list. So like we have to go back and kind of as an addendum throw those in there. So this month we'll actually be watching The Snorkel from 1958, and so that's always a lot of fun. We also have Video Vortex, where we talk about movies that would have basically went straight to video, and we also have Grindhouse Gutter, which we talk about movies that would have played in the grindhouses and the drive-ins and the B movies, those type of movies. We do that over there, so all that can be found on our YouTube channel. Also over on our Patreon, patreon.com/AASpookshow. Every month you get a video minisode if you become a patron, and you also every month get one that we don't like doing, but the fans love listening to it, Crapster Theater, where every month we put up a poll. It's 4 or 5 of the crappiest movies we can think of. You guys vote for it, and then we are whatever wins, we're subjected to watching it that month. So this month we actually just this past Friday, the latest episode was Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. Oh God. It was not fun. So, and the current poll, which I'm blanking on, is out now. I'm not even going to go through it because I don't have it in front of me. But the current poll is out there now, so you can go to our socials and other ways to vote for it, and then we'll watch that towards the end of January. So, with all that out of the way, I guess we'll go ahead and dive into it. There really isn't a trailer for this, right? Because it's an episode of Tales from the Crypt. This is also a first here on the Spook Show. Right, Professor, where we're actually talking about an episode of a television show, because historically we've always talked about either a particular subject or a movie. So
true, yeah. This will be the first time for reviewing a separate television episode. Yeah, I mean we've probably done TV movies, but not a television episode yet.
Yeah. Well, I think Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, or wasn't that the name of it? Yeah, that was a TV movie, and it seems like there's been a couple others, and we did a fan film once, the Never Hike Alone. So that kind of counts, right? But otherwise, no, we've never done like just a single episode of a TV show. So if nothing else,
unless you want to count the Troma's Doggy Tales, which was supposed to be sort of TV, thankfully never got turned into a TV series.
We don't want to talk about that.
No.
It's the thing that single-handedly killed Traumatic Experience over on YouTube. But if you want to go check it out, it's there. So, yeah, William, that was a good call on this one just because it introduces something new, a TV episode. So,
thank you.
First time won't be the last for sure. So, yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and get into some of the background information here. This was episode 2 of the first season of Tales from the Crypt. And it actually, from what I can tell, the first 3 episodes actually aired all on the same day. Episode 1, 2, and 3 aired on June 10th of 1989 there on HBO. And the first episode was The Man Who Was Death. Then there was this second episode, and All Through the House. And then there was the third episode, dig that cat, he's real gone.
Mm-hmm.
And the first episode was directed by Walter Hill. The third episode was directed by Richard Donner. But this episode that we're here to talk about today was directed by Robert Zemeckis. So you kind of had an all-star lineup there to kick off Tales from the Crypt, right, with these three guys.
Oh, yeah.
Have y'all seen, before we get any further into this one, I guess who here has seen the Amicus Tales from the Crypt that had the same story adaptation in it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have. And it's been a long time ago. And from what I recall on that one, it was fairly similar, but a little more. It seemed like there was a little bit more to it, right? I mean, it's been a long time, but
yeah,
like
I believe that was from 1972 or 3. Could be wrong, but somewhere in there when that came out. But yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't really do a comparison side by side on it. But yeah, it seemed like there was a little bit more involved in that story. Was they kind of pared things down for this to make it nice and tight, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. The source of this is actually the Vault of Horror issue number 35. Now that goes back to the old EC Comics, but that's what the Tales from the Crypt were, right? The old EC Comics series.
They had a Vault of Horror, they had Tales from the Crypt, separate but same type of subject matter. But yeah,
there were a number of different kind of books that went, in EC Comics. It was like the Crypt of Terror, the Haunt of Fear, a bunch of other ones, but this one was adapted from the Vault of Horror issue number 35. So Lord knows how much that comic is probably worth these days, but probably not. Yeah, it's probably quite a bit, and it would be cool to track it down and have it, if you're into such things. But it's probably an expensive one.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this was directed by Robert Zemeckis, but it was actually written by Fred Dekker, and Fred Dekker, and of course Stephen Dodd too. But Fred Dekker, he wrote another one that we've done here on the Spook Show before, The Monster Squad.
Mm-hmm. That's a great movie.
Yeah. He also, he's done tons of other good stuff. I mean, he did RoboCop 3, The Predator, the one from 2018. And then he actually wrote Night of the Creeps in 1986. So the same
great movie too
came out. He had done that. So yeah, he's got quite a resume.
Oh yeah. Zemeckis did Gremlins too, didn't he? The first Gremlins?
Well, I think that was Joe Dante that directed it, but Zemeckis probably had something to do with it, right? Or producer or writer or something like that.
Yeah, might have been producer.
Zemeckis, though, he's mostly named, the bigger stuff that he's had his hands on would be like Forrest Gump, Back to the Future, Contact, that Denzel Washington film, Flight. So, he's had a long storied career as a producer, director, writer, you name it, that dude's done it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think he was a producer on this as well, right? Like, I think Tales from the Crypt, this whole series that was on HBO kind of, he was one of the catalysts of that.
Yeah.
Without having the whole history of, how Tales from the Crypt came to be. But this particular episode stars John Kaiser, Mary Ellen Trainor, and Larry Drake. Now, Larry Drake, remember, he was in Dr. Giggles.
Yeah.
That we did. We did that episode just last year, so that's another one you can pull from the archives. Unfortunately, he passed away sometime, it was in the 90s or something, right? He kind of died young, I think. No, it was 2016. I'm sorry, I was wrong about that. But it always seemed like to me like Larry Drake was one of those kind of underappreciated guys that when you look back, you're kind of like, yeah, this dude was really good. A lot of the stuff that I'll tell you, you see it in this, and you see it obviously in Dr. Giggles too, man. He nailed the aesthetic of just raving lunatic, right?
Yeah.
He had a charisma for that type of role.
Yeah, because he barely says anything in this episode, right? I think up until the very end where he says naughty or nice. I think it's
at the very end.
Yeah, that might be his only line, right? I think.
He just kind of grunts and does a sinister, evil chuckle.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, but that being said, though, lunatic, he had it nailed. So he was perfect at that.
Completely.
It also has Marshall Bell as the husband, who gets the. I was going to say the axe, but he gets the poker and then the axe. And then Lindsay Whitney Berry plays Carrie Ann. And then there's an uncredited role from John E. Coates as the voice of a police officer. I guess that was on the phone or something like that. But that's it as far as the cast is concerned. But obviously, it's only a 25-minute or so episode of Tales from the Crypt, so it's not going to have a deep cast there,
It's not super long.
Yeah, exactly.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spookshow podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So hop on over to audible.com, typed in Tales from the Crypt to see what will pop up, and what do you know, we have a few things. We've got Tales from the Southern Fried Crypt. Southern Fried Horror Tales Book 2. So apparently there's at least 2 of these things. By Ronald Kelly, and that one's just over 5 hours long there on Audible. Let's see, a couple of these are podcasts, so we're not going to mention those, but there is another one that pops up with it called Dark of the Moon Inn by George Czar. That one is almost 3 hours long, so if any of that floats your boat, you can go try any of those out and get your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audiobook. So I'm going to hop back over to imdb.com, click on plot summary to see what they put up there. And what do you know? I mean, for an episode of a TV series, there's actually 2 on here. I'm kind of surprised by that. You've got the one sentence one. A greedy woman makes the mistake of murdering her husband while an escaped mental patient dressed in a Santa Claus outfit is on the loose. That pretty aptly describes what's going on here. But there has to be a longer one, of course, and this one was submitted by Claudio Carvajo on IMDb. On Christmas Eve, a mother controls the anxiety of her little daughter, Carrie Ann, for Santa Claus and puts her to bed. Then she comes to the living room and kills her husband, hitting his head with a fireplace poker, expecting to receive his life insurance and stay with her lover. While she is dumping his body on the yard, the dangerous patient of a mental institution dressed like Santa Claus attacks her, but she succeeds to escape and lock the door. However, she is unable to call the police, and since the body of her husband is in the front yard, out of the blue, Carrie calls her mother with an unexpected guest. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, I think, as far as like going through the blow by blow of the episode, I think you got to start right from the beginning, and that's the Crypt Keeper himself, right? Like I said, this is the second episode, so this is, one of the early iterations of the Crypt Keeper, and he did end up looking a little different from what I recall, right? Like this version of the Crypt Keeper versus, say, a couple seasons later looks a little different.
Yeah, he had an evolution all through the seasons, and up to the end.
I always loved it too when you actually see it kind of full body Crypt Keeper, and you see him walking and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like in I think Bordello of Blood and Demon Knight.
We actually did Demon Knight last year here on the podcast, and that was a lot of fun. And
that is a great movie.
Yeah, it had been a while since I saw it, and I just forgot how fun that was. So that was a good one to go back on.
Oh yeah, I actually met Billy Zane in real life at the first horror con I went to in Fort Wayne, Indiana, called DeadCon. I was just mesmerized. I almost didn't have words. All I could almost do was look at him. I felt so bad. I felt so dumb. So I wanted to talk to him, and he didn't have much time. But I didn't get to say what I wanted to.
Oh man, he really, he really eats it up and hams it up in that movie too, man. Like he's full Billy Zane in that movie.
He celebrates his enjoyment of being a villain really, really well.
Yeah. And it shows in the performance. I mean, he was really in on it for sure. But you get the Crypt Keeper Santa right there at the beginning, and then as per usual, the Crypt Keeper's bit was to be the host, so to speak, of the story, because that's what it was. It was an anthology series, so every episode was different. So he introduced the story, and then you'd see him again at the end as the outro. So that's what the Crypt Keeper's job was. So here, as usual, he's giving his one-liners, right, and dressed like Santa, and away we go. How about right from the beginning where she just hits her husband upside the head, or that's her husband, right? Hits her husband in the head with the fire poker. He's like, "Give it to me. I want the poker. Give it to me." And then she comes up, bam, just right in the skull.
And she's trying to get it out and slams his face into the coffee table a couple times before it comes out.
I also love too where the daughter comes downstairs and she says something to him, and obviously he's dead, so he's not going to say anything to her. But the body doesn't fall. It's comedic. It's like it's kind of halfway there, and then like it's about to fall, and then it stops as she's looking, and then when she turns away, that's when it falls.
The look on his face right before the body falls, it's almost like he's going to say something, but he doesn't. You know he's dead and he can't, but you almost expect him to.
Yeah, and I think he's cross-eyed or something too, right? He's just like...
And then what does the daughter say? How come Dad didn't say goodnight to? Oh no, or was it stepdad? I think. Or how come? She called him by name? Didn't say goodnight, goodbye to him.
Yeah.
Or good night.
How come he didn't say anything to me? Just go upstairs, honey. Yeah.
yeah, that's when at the point where he falls, right? Yeah.
I also,
the little girl didn't seem to like him too much.
No, well, stepdad. I'm sure there's a whole story that you're not seeing there, right? The whole stepdad dynamic and all that stuff. They only got so much time to flesh everything out, so let's just move it along, kind of thing. But I do like though that like she wraps his head up in like cellophane with a bow, like like wrapping up the Christmas present. Drags him outside, and she's about to toss his body down a well, and then he wakes up. Now, all right, how is this even possible? Right, like this dude took a fire poker to the skull. Is it even possible that he could come back? I don't think so, but he did, and. But then he kind of falls over, right? Like because it's before she eventually takes the axe. That's the whole anticipated thing where she goes and gets the axe and misses it twice, but then squares him up. The funny thing I found about that though is that like the cops call, right? They kind of call out of the blue to warn her that this mental asylum guy has broke out, and then it takes her. I feel it takes her too long to realize that. Wait a minute, she could use this to her advantage, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's afraid at first.
Yeah, like, I'm thinking like, oh, she's got the perfect alibi. This dude's, there's an escaped mental patient, but it takes her way too long to come to that same conclusion,
Mm-hmm. She was so worried about them finding out.
Yeah. Also, wouldn't the daughter, all that noise and shit where the guy, the psycho Santa shows up and he's chasing her around, she's screaming. I'm pretty sure they slammed the door a couple of times. He crashes through all that stuff before she wakes up. Wouldn't she hear any of that, you would think?
Oh, she definitely would. She may have been like too afraid to move, or maybe she was just dead asleep.
I don't. Maybe she must have slipped her like some coma medicine or something. I don't know. Because she was out of it. You would think that she would have heard some of that, surely. But
yeah. The breeze from the open window.
It's Christmas Eve, right? And you're anticipating your kid. You're anticipating Santa Claus, so. You're probably not sleeping too well. Any noise you hear downstairs, you're like, oh, Santa Claus, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't it end up being like some subtle noise that did wake her up, though? She heard something.
Yeah, it was the ladder, right?
Yeah.
Him coming up.
It was him. Fell over.
The umbrellas fell off.
She had to open the door.
Yeah.
So
that's what wakes her up, and not the screaming and slamming doors and crashing through a window and everything. But no, that's what did it.
It's surprising.
I guess it just wasn't a proper time in the story for her to wake up just yet. So how convenient.
Oh, and a little bit. I love how they announce she doesn't hear any of that because that's when she's dragging her husband's body outside to throw it in the well. So we hear it to her, but she doesn't know it yet, until he pops up in the yard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like that little device. It's kind of just sort of reminds me of that's something that comes from the comic book, kind of sort of that sort of the viewer or the listener, the reader, if it's a comic book or whatever, is in on something, whereas the person in it's not, yet at that point gets revealed to them later type thing.
And I think that's one thing they always did well throughout the Tales from the Crypt TV series was holding true to that comic book vibe. With the Crypt.
Oh, they definitely did.
Yeah, the Crypt Keeper intro and outro, just like in the comics, and the way the stories would play out would always be kind of comic booky, to not have a better way to put it. So they always kept that vibe going of just remember this is from a comic book,
And the theme song, you can't forget. I mean, it's a very iconic song. Every time you hear it, you know exactly that melody or whatever.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
iconic. They really captured that vibe too with Creepshow, which I guess that was based on. It's at least based on a comic, right? But I think that was a comic series too, right?
Yeah, I think that was all Stephen King and Romero stories. At least definitely influenced by EC Comics.
Yeah, but essentially, like you go throughout the episode here of the psycho trying to get in the house, and she's fighting him off. And then eventually she's fairly successful at kind of fending him off until he gets a ladder and then goes up, and then the daughter lets him in the house. And that's kind of the closing line is the daughter is holding Santa's hand because she just thinks he's Santa Claus, right? She doesn't know he's a raving lunatic.
Oh yeah,
axe killer. She's holding his hand like, "Look, Santa's here, Mom." And then she's like, "Oh God, no!" And then he says, "Naughty or nice," and then that's
that's the little girl's like, "And I let him in."
Yeah. Oh shit, and that's kind of the way you leave it, and then you get the outro with the Crypt Keeper. So, yeah, that is an awesome episode. Like I said before, it's one of my favorite episodes of that run. And I'm almost dead positive. I could be wrong. I mean, because I was young. I was 9 years old when this debuted. I'm almost positive I watched it the night that it came on, because I remember sitting there watching like a little, all 3 episodes, like the run of them. Now, obviously, 9 years old, I shouldn't have been watching this, but I remember, I remember sitting there watching this. I'm almost positive of it, unless I just saw it a year or two later and I'm just thinking wrong. But I'm telling you, I think I was watching this when it came out, there in June of '89. But yeah, good pull by you, William.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful episode, and it's cool to get an episode of a TV show on here for sure. Nice Christmas Day treat for the listeners.
Oh yeah, and it's so funny too with all the dark comedy.
Oh yeah, well that was another thing that they always did well with Tales from the Crypt. The dark comedy, the jokes, and everything. It never stopped. So I think that was one of the more, as morbid as it is, right, the more charming aspects of the series was that dark humor, right?
Oh, definitely. And you could always count on it from the Crypt Keeper too. Like, you knew the jokes were going to be bad, but they were so funny. They were just so fun and entertaining.
He's essentially delivering like cheap dad jokes, but it's just the fact that it came from the Crypt Keeper and the way he would deliver it, like they would deliver it with him and everything. Like, it just made it, dumb jokes. It made them good,
Yeah, it did.
So what we do is we give a star rating. I know we're not comparing it to movies. It's an episode of a TV show, but we give a star rating. So we go 0 through 5, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst. So since you're the guest, William, we'll let you go first. Like 0 to 5, how many stars would you give it?
I'll say 5, completely 5.
As far as for what this is, I'm not going to argue it. Tiana, what do you say?
I'm going to give it a 4.
What were your thoughts on it? I mean, did you like the episode? I mean,
yes, the better episodes.
From what you remember of watching Tales from the Crypt, was this one of your favorite ones that you remember, or did you remember it going in and all that?
Yeah, definitely remembered it.
Professor, what do you say?
Yeah, it's fun. You can't. It is one of my favorites as well, and you can't really think of Tales from the Crypt without thinking of this episode. I think it's one of the best, but also it's one of the most memorable. From Larry Drake, like we said, he didn't hardly say anything except at the end of the movie, but he still has such a presence as that psychotic Santa or whatever. Even more so than I mentioned it off the top, but the Amicus Tales from the Crypt that had the same story adaptation, and it was good, was handled very well. But I can't even remember who played that Santa in that movie. He's not terrible or anything, but just if you were comparing those two, I think Larry Drake would definitely steal it. I love this episode. I give it a 4.
Just because we've never done any episodes of TV shows, and this is one that I remember fondly, especially of this series, I'm going to go 5, like William did. I mean, it's one of those ones that like it stuck with me back then for sure. I mean, like I said, if I was watching it at 9 years old, it's probably scared the hell out of me. But it probably informed many years of development after that, to be honest with you. But I give it 5 stars, and let the scale go from there. Whenever we watch more TV episodes of stuff. So at some point we'll get Donnie and Will's 2 cents and get their star ratings. But for now, obviously, we highly recommend, if you've never seen this episode. Yeah, we spoiled it, but we didn't ruin it. You need to experience it. You need to go check it out yourself. Unfortunately, I don't think there's too many places you can stream this series, right? You kind of have to search around a little bit if you're trying to stream it. I have it on DVD, and that's how I watched it this time around, but without buying it is what I mean. I don't think it's really streaming anywhere, right?
I think
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I think they have single episodes on YouTube.
Okay, so you can rent them. Okay. Oh,
that's what I was going to say.
So you mean they have them for rent, or they just have like random episodes on YouTube that you can?
Oh no, they're free. They're chopped up. They're on there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, are they the chopped up team? Remember when they used to play this on regular, not cable or maybe regular syndication, TV. But they cut out the gore and of course any other like too risque things. But yeah, there was a TV cut of these. I mean, I don't know if that's what they have on YouTube or not.
You know, even this one, you know, that I watched on the DVD, like, yeah, there's some gore, but it's not massively gory. I mean, yeah, there's the fire poker to the head, right? You know, and I guess we can get into that in the gore score here in just a second, but that's about the only thing that comes to mind, right?
Yeah, for this episode. I mean, there were some of the other ones had a little bit more gore maybe than this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember it being a TV version way after the fact, well after the show had ended, and it was in syndication after that. But yeah, they would tone that down.
Well, we don't have. Ironically, we do the connections from the Crypt, and Donnie's not here to give them to him. This is his chance, the perfect time to hear the intro and everything. This was a chance, but he's not here to give it, so we'll skip that. Although we did point out that Larry Drake was in Dr. Giggles, right? And it seems like Marianne Trainer has popped up in something that we've done at some point, surely. So there might be a connection there, and then maybe at some point we'll get Donnie to make it. But and of course, Will's not here for the kill count. But let's talk about the kill reel.
Highlight kill.
I'm going to give out the highlight kill, and you only see one, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go with that. Right? I mean, it's that I'm thinking it's the only time you actually see him do anything is, or not him, sorry. Come to think of it now, you never see the Santa kill anybody, right?
No.
They just allude to it like, oh, he's an axe murderer on the loose, but you never see him do anything.
Yeah, not on screen. Yeah, the radio report tells you that he's killed some people or whatever, and that's how he got the Santa costume. But
yeah, I just now realized that like you never actually see, other than just chasing her around, you never see him actually do anything. But so the only kill is the husband getting the fire poker to the skull and then the axe to the head, which you don't see. You see it, but you don't see it happen, right?
Yeah. The aftermath,
yeah. So that's it. Yeah, so that's the highlight kill. So, Professor,
gore score.
That's awesome. Yeah, that the gore score, and you might know this well is an homage to Chaz Balin, that horror columnist who wrote for Deep Red magazine, Fangoria, Gore Zone, and he had his own books and things out too. So gore score is an homage to Chaz, and for this movie, I mean for this TV episode, it's we talked about it. It's not super gory. It doesn't have to be. It gets its message across, and it's effective without too much gore. So you get the fire poker to the head with a little bit of blood there. I mean that scene is just funny and everything. It doesn't need all the it doesn't have to be gory. It doesn't have to show his brains coming out or anything like that. It doesn't need it because it's working off the humor and everything in that element. So really that, and then the axe to his head later, you don't see it, as we mentioned, we alluded to it, you see him, she swings and hits the stove twice and then hits him in the middle of the head the third time, but you see her from behind, you see his legs twitch, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a humorous episode, right? Humorous element on that scene. So then you see his head, with the axe in it. So aftermath sort of stuff. So, but this episode doesn't need a whole lot of gore to carry it. It's got the humor and it's got Christmas stuff and it's got Larry Drake and it's got, so I mean, it's I'd probably give it a 6 because it's just not really gory, but again, you don't really miss it,
The funny thing is like, it almost feels gorier than it is. Maybe it's because, Larry Drake's, Santa, he's covered in blood and stuff, right? Like he's nasty looking, like, so maybe in your mind you're thinking like, oh yeah, that was a gory episode. But then in reality, it's there's not much.
Yeah. The implication, the implied gore is more than what you actually see, I guess.
Yeah. I guess that'll pretty much wrap it up here for this episode. William, we appreciate you coming on. I'm glad that you pulled this episode. I think it was a perfect little Christmas nugget here on Christmas Day for the listeners. We encourage you to go track down the episode on YouTube or wherever else you need to, go buy the DVD, whatever. Go check this episode out. It's a really good one. And and we appreciate it. So is there anywhere that people can find you on the internet if they're looking for for your work or just to get in contact with you?
I have my page on Facebook under Andy Bove, and my vampire book is the first of my vampire trilogy is on Amazon, and I have a couple of anthologies that I've been in that are also able to be found on Amazon, and it's all under William Bove. And I have an empath book, which is my only nonfiction book to date. That's also on Amazon, and it's called Empath, the Sensitive Human. And my vampire book is called Once Upon a Grave.
There you go. And it's William Bove, Bove. So you look that up on Amazon, you should be able to find some of those books, right?
Yep. The Amazon doesn't toss any of an author stuff away. So there's two different printings of the book. One will say out of print because my original publisher no longer exists. And there is another one that is in print. So if they go on there, just hit filter and hit books, and it'll come up with two results. And the most current one it'll say paperback. That's the one.
Awesome. Well, we will all do that. We encourage our listeners to go do that. And William, thanks for picking this. Thanks for coming on the show, man. And don't be a stranger. Maybe at some point we'll have you back on and we'll do another episode or do another movie or something.
I would love that. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I really like this. This was really cool.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Enjoyed it.
Well, next week here on the Spook Show, we begin the new year, literally on January 1st, because, our new episodes come out every Monday at 6 p.m. East, wherever you get your podcast, and on our YouTube channel. And we're starting off the new year with a look back on 2023. We're going to be talking about the year that was horror in 2023 and what we loved, what we didn't like. So we'll go through all that next week. So for Donnie and Will, who couldn't be with us, Tiana and the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show, and we'll talk to you next week.